welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we are going to be making the best little keeper, little project keeper, little craft keeper, perfect for the holiday season. Today, we are going to be making the Running with Scissors case, and this comes to us from Buy Any Patterns. Now, I love Buy Any everything. I love everything on their site. I love everything they make, and I adore Buy Any Patterns. Buy Any Patterns are really like that perfect combination of quilter and bag maker come together, make a beautiful baby, right? It is quilted. A lot of times the patterns are written for quilt cotton. We're not using quilt cotton in today's tutorial. You definitely can though. However, we're going to be using a bonded nylon material from Wonderground Fabrics, which is perfect for this project. We just have to have a couple little tweaks and I'll walk you through all of that in today's tutorial. And if you're part of the Bag Making Monthly B Box, this is the kit for November and it is so good. The material is so good and you can mix this up in any way you want. If you don't want this material to show here, you mix this up however you want. I think I'm actually going to switch it up in today's tutorial. We'll see. So let's run through the project real quick. First, you have a front panel and you have a zip pocket on the front, which extends all the way down to the bottom. You have a nice little handle up top. On the back, you have, once again, another pocket, just like that. So the front just has that nice contrast panel, which is a great place to put your bag tag. The keeper does have a full zipper that goes around the entire edge. So you can put stuff in here and zip it all up. It's not going anywhere. And then we have pockets galore. We have so many slip pockets. We have some like nylon quilt cotton slip pockets and then clear vinyl slip pockets. And then we have a clear vinyl zip pouch. On the other side, we have more of these nice little slip pockets. Again, a double layer. So you have like your fabric slip pockets down here and then your clear slip pockets. And then above this one, we have two mesh zipper pockets. And then in the center, we have a bunch of little elastic slings here. So you can pack this up with goodies. I actually haven't packed it up yet. I think I'm going to do that real quick. Hold on a second. Okay, so I did not fully pack this by any means, but I did put a few things in here. So like right here in this front pocket, I have a nice sparkly ruler. And then when I open this up, you can see on one side, and you can fold this open like this. So you can hold it open on both sides just like that for easy access. I have some pens, glue stick, a couple things in the pockets. You can put some spools of thread on the top here. On the other side, perfect for scissors. I have some clips in the clear pocket and a ruler. I mean, this is just super easy to play with. And then all I have to do is zip it up. And now I'm ready to go on vacation. So this is so great for crafters, obviously. Think about sewing retreats. Think about going away for the holidays and you just want to bring some like hand sewing projects with you. Perfect for that. This is also great for crafts. Let's say you're going on a road trip over the holidays. Make one of these for the kids. They can put all their little crafty tools in here, some paper, coloring books, things like that. This would be great for the office. You could put a lot of your basic tools, your notepad, your iPad or something, zip it in here and then take it to work with you. So very versatile project. So stinking cute. And I would say beginner friendly. This takes a while to set up and it takes a while to sew together. However, there's nothing complicated with what we're doing here. Pretty much we're just building a lot of pockets and then we sew it on. So this is not a challenging make by any means. Even the zipper is pretty easy to install. Even the zipper is easy, okay? So I highly recommend you guys give this one a try. So thank you so much to Buy Any Patterns for allowing me to use your patterns on my channel. If you guys haven't checked out Buy Any Patterns, I will have a link down below, but I do highly encourage you guys to check out local quilt shops. I know Wonderground Fabrics is now selling their patterns. Many of the Buy Any patterns are printed physical patterns, so they're not PDF versions. So like I said, check your local quilt shops, check online. BuyAny.com also has them available. But again, if you can support a small local business, even Buy Any encourages you to do that. Thank you also to the Bag Making Bee Club for sponsoring today's video. I get to be a part of this wonderful club with Gabby and Jade over at Heartwood and Hide, and we love coming up with these boxes every month. They are so much fun. The material for this one is so great. We have a mix of the bonded nylon and water-resistant canvas. Perfect for this project. Yes, you can quilt it. No, there's no problems with it. Yes, we have a couple tweaks because bonded nylon is a little bit thicker than quilt cotton. So we don't want to layer up so much stuff, but I will walk you through all of it today. Don't even worry. This is not a challenging make, but it is extremely satisfying. So if you're new to the OklaRoots YouTube channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, shoutouts, anything at all, leave them down in the comment section. What other buy any patterns do you want to see on the channel? I love buy any patterns so much. I mean, I can't even explain how much we love buy any patterns. I am so excited, especially to get more into quilting again, and that's the nice thing about these patterns is that they are meant for like quilt cotton, quilted makes, you know, but we can use other things. We can quilt vinyl, we can quilt nylon, we can quilt a lot of things. So if you're like, I don't really want to make a bag with quilt cotton, we can still modify it to make it work, and it's just like, it's just the best. It's the best. Before we get started, if you're interested in the Bag Making Bee Club, I just wanted to let you guys know that they are currently offering a 3-month gift bundle if you want to buy that for someone. So if you're looking to gift a subscription to someone, but you don't want to commit to a full year, or you don't have to pay every month, you can buy 3 months at a discounted price, and that will provide 3 months of future boxes to whoever you're gifting it to. Or if you just want to try it out for a few months and you don't want to have to do a monthly payment, just try the 3-month bundle. And again, it is a discount per month. So that's a great option, especially as we go into the holidays. Also, if you are a current member of the Bag Making Bee Club and you make this and you post it on social media, make sure you use the hashtag Bag Making Bee Club. By using that hashtag, you are entering for a chance to win your next month's box for free. That means free dollars, $0, no dollars. Free. so that's a fun thing to do. If you're going to share it anyways on social media, just use the hashtag and now you can win your next box for free maybe. All right, guys, let's get started. Okay, I'm so excited about this box. We've never had such a fancy box for one of these things, so I'm just tickled by how cute this turned out. Gabby is just such an incredible designer. This is so cute. So you have this beautiful wraparound design, and then you have a QR code here if you want to check out more about bee boxes. On the back, you have all of our business QRs, which is so fun. So it's me, it's Wonderground Fabrics, and Heartwood and Hide. The three of us, we really, you don't even know how hard everybody works to make these boxes just absolutely perfect. So this is such a treasure to me. I'm so grateful that I was given one of these boxes. And I hope that if you receive one of these, you really love them. And hopefully, you know, you can hang on to the box for a little bit because it is a really special box. Okay, so let's open this up. This month, so good, so good. So as I showed you in the beginning, we're making Running with Scissors tool case. Now this is a designed tool case for obviously sewing tools, but it can be used for anybody. This is especially great. This is what we were thinking when we talked about it for this month. We were planning traveling with kids. If you have kids, you have some art stuff, you have some crafty things, you can put a coloring book in there, zip it all up. Great for traveling. But also, if you're a sewer and you're traveling, or you just want to organize all your tools, perfect for that as well. So we are going to be making this. It is such a good pattern. I'm so excited to go through it with you. So let's go through all the yummies in here. I mean goodies. I said yummies because I saw these, which are delicious. I believe Gabby included these in one of the first few boxes, and there was like an outpouring of messages to her asking for these to be included again. So here they are. I'm not sharing mine, I'm sorry. And then a beautiful little Magic Maker sticker. You can put that on your water bottle or on your sewing machine. We have some mesh because we will be having a mesh pocket in this. In this bag here, we have all the hardware, which is a bunch of zippers as well as your zipper tape. There is quite a bit of zipper tape in this one. And then we have our clear vinyl, which is really easy to work with clear vinyl. I did not have any problem with sticking with this. So I think that you're gonna really enjoy working with this, but just in case, make sure you keep the back paper here so you can put that wherever you need to on your sewing machine. I'll show you while we go through it. And then we have our foam. Now we're not adding foam everywhere that the pattern suggests because it would just be too thick. So I'm gonna show you, we're only gonna add foam on the main panel. I will show you that in just a moment. And then we have our amazing bag tag designed and created by Heartwood and Hide. Jay just did such an amazing job with this, and it's Be Creative, so you can put that wherever you want. And then we have some elastic for those little loopy pockets in the center. And then we have our material. This is a water-resistant canvas. It is gorgeous. In the first version I made, I used this on like the front main panel, and you can't see it anywhere. So we're gonna use this in other places today. I'm gonna switch it all up today. I'm gonna show you how different it can look. And then we have the amazing bonded nylon. This is a black and white stripe bonded nylon. And then we have the colorful bee bonded nylon. This was designed by Gabby at Wonderground Fabrics. It is completely brand new, designed just for this box for this month. How special are we? And then finally, we have some webbing. Now, I'm gonna be using the webbing today in a different way from how the pattern suggests, just because it's easier with the way I do it with the nylon versus the way the pattern does it. Again, we're gonna be switching around a lot of things today based on the material we're using, because the material we're using doesn't behave like quilt cotton, so we can't treat it like quilt cotton, but I have tips galore for you. So I hope you love this box. Make sure you hold on to your little box. Use it to store some of your goodies. I love this. I can't wait. I hope you guys love it too. Okay, let's get everything cut up and make our running with scissors tool case. All right, so for this bag, you're gonna need 3/4 of a yard of about 3 different fabrics. You can use more if you'd like. You can make it very scrappy if you'd like, but 3/4 of a yard of main fabric, lining fabric, and coordinating fabric. Again, super scrappy here if you want it to be. In today's tutorial and in the box for the B box this month, we're actually using these 2 prints over here are bonded nylon, meaning it has a nylon feel. So think nylon bags, like cosmetic bags, things like that. But it has a like soft, kind of little tiny bit of fluff, like not like a fusible fleece or anything like that, but it has like a little soft backing. So both of these are bonded nylon. And then for the other piece, we have a water resistant canvas. What this allows us to do is use this material without any sort of woven interfacing on it. All we need is the foam to go with this. If you're using quilt cotton, you will want to add woven interfacing where the pattern suggests it. I don't know if I have a preference. I really want to make this bag with quilt cotton as well. That's just the nice thing about this material is that the material doesn't get dirty as quickly as quilt cotton. Quilt cotton, you know, kind of like the fibers trap in a lot of dirt and stains and things like that. This material is easier to keep clean. So it's a great option for today. However, because this material is a little bit thicker than quilt cotton, we do have to make some adjustments, at least in my opinion. We make some adjustments with how we attach everything to make it a little bit easier. And I'll give you lots of tips today. All right, so for the soft and stable, the pattern suggests 36 by 58 inches of soft and stable. So for this pattern, the pattern does suggest you use the foam, which is what soft and stable is, but they use the foam interfacing for the main body and also for all the quilted pockets. That's going to get very beefy, especially with the bonded nylon. So if you're using the kit, we're only using the foam for the quilted main panel. And the pattern piece for that is quilted set A. We're only using the foam for that. We are not using the foam for the pockets. We're still gonna quilt the pieces for the pocket, but we're not gonna use the foam. You're also gonna need a small cut of mesh, and then you're going to need about a 12 by 12.5 inch cut of clear vinyl. Any type of clear vinyl. Have fun with this one. Okay, you're also gonna need a lot of zipper tape, like at least 100 inches long of zipper tape. So let's see, that'd be like 3 yards, I think. I would say about 3 yards of zipper tape. For the zippers, you're gonna have one zipper that's 40 inches long with one zipper pull, and then you're gonna have 4 zippers that are 15 inches long or longer each. 3 of them will have one zipper pull, and 1 of them will have 2 zipper pulls attached, both going in the same direction. So they don't open and close away from each other. They're both going in the same direction. Okay, so just attach one on, attach the next one on. Then you're going to need at least 1 yard of 1 inch wide strapping. So this is like webbing. I'm gonna insert this in a different way than what the pattern suggests, just because I can't do it the way the patterns. Again, I'm going to give you tips on how to do this in a little bit easier way, but using the material that we're using. And then you're going to need 3/4 of a yard of elastic, some fold over elastic, or I don't know if this is fold over. I think it is. Just some 1 inch wide elastic. Okay, so here's most of the other stuff. There's really not a whole lot of extras. We don't have a lot of hardware or anything like that with this. You're gonna need lots of clips. Lots and lots of clips are gonna be helpful. A 1 inch by 6 inch ruler as always, an air erasing marker, a silver ink marking pen, a chalk marking tool. Have various ways to mark material, especially if you have a lighter and darker material. Have various marking tools. We have our adorable bag tag this month. It's called Be Creative and it's gorgeous. For the thread I'm using, on the top, I'm using a Tex 45 weight thread, and in the bobbin, I'm using a Mara 100 weight thread. The bobbin thread will show quite a bit with the attached binding and also with the quilting. So think about that with your bobbin thread. The needle I'm using today is a Microtex 8012. If you're using quilt cotton, you're gonna probably wanna change out needles throughout the project. So getting started, you might wanna use a Microtex 7010 because if you have a lightweight material, but then as we go on through the project, some of the seams do get very bulky. You might even, with the material I have today, the nylon, you might even wanna have a 9014 needle or a jeans needle on hand for the end, because some of the seams with the foam and the zipper tape and all the layers can get pretty bulky. So you might want to have another needle on hand just in case. We're going to use so much double-sided tape, and maybe this is just personal preference, but I use a ton of this in this project. So I have 1/4 inch and 1/8 of an inch wide double-sided tape. I have a lighter to clean up any little loose threads, and then I have my seam ripper stiletto as well as my stiletto that I keep at the sewing machine with me. So let's talk about the pattern pieces. Now, I've already done a lot of prep work. This bag is mostly all prep work, and then you just sew it all together. It's a really fun make. It's very simple, but it does require a lot of prepping. So this pattern piece here is called the case body. This is going to be the main body of your case. When you fold this in half, this is the size that it is in the end. And you can see it has a backside and a front side, and it is quilted with the foam in it. This is the only piece that has foam using this nylon material. So for this, you're going to need your main fabric as well as either your contrast or your lining fabric. You're going to attach them to the foam so that they're wrong sides together with the foam in between. I'm going to have a little video playing up in the corner where I show you how I attach these and also how I quilted them. So that's just going to be kind of running through as we go through the pattern pieces, because I did do that in preparation for the video today. As you can see with my quilting, I am super loosey-goosey. I do not mark anything. I pretty much just start right in the middle, quilt one line down, and I just start kind of randomly quilting lines next to it. They don't have to look beautiful for the end result to be really cool. So if you want to do some free motion quilting though, I did want to suggest this. Follow those circles. That would be a fun free motion quilting design, is just kind of follow some of these circles around. That would be beautiful. If I had more time, I would have done it, but I didn't. So you'll notice that the pattern pieces to build this are quite a bit bigger than the finished result. That's because after you quilt it all together, the material shrinks down. So you have big pieces of material, quilt it all together, and then cut it down to the finished size, and then just base along all 4 edges to just tie in and hold down the edges of both materials. And then you have a beautiful finished product. So this is the case body. All right, so then here are our other quilted pieces. This is this all comes from one big cut. So you're gonna have one big cut of your main, one big cut of your lining or contrast. You're going to put them wrong sides together. No foam this time. If you want to add a little bit of fusible fleece or something, you can, but just remember it gets thick. So no foam on these ones if you're using the nylon, or if you're using the kit today, you don't have enough foam for that. You're not going to use any foam here. But I do still quilt them together, even though there's nothing in between them. So you're going to have 2 pockets here, pockets A and B, and you can see these have a front and a back. And again, just a very simple quilting. So I want to show you these pockets on the finished design so it helps you pick out your material. So these are pockets A and B. One of the pockets will have a detailing on the top, and I'll tell you what that piece is once we get to it. Both of them are zip pockets, and they're stitched down. So the main body is beneath it. You really don't see the main body at all, at least on the exterior. Like this little pink strip here, that's all you see of the main body, because these pockets are stitched in place. So if whatever fabric you really want seen on the exterior, those are going to be for your pockets. If you want to make them different, go ahead and do that. The next piece we have is quilted pocket G. It has a front and a back, just like before, because again, it's all cut from the same thing. This is going to be this small section right here behind the clear vinyl. And then we have quilted pocket H. This is going to be on the other side, also in front of that clear vinyl pocket here. So these are going to be seen a lot. So if you have a print you want to use, go ahead and use that. These are very tight pockets. They're supposed to be to hold tools. So just so you know, you're not going to see the back of this much at all. Like, I don't know, you can't even see. You're not going to see the back side of these pockets. So if this is the fabric you want seen a lot of, don't use it over here. As you can see, I used this pink fabric originally for the back of almost everything, and you don't see any of it. So we're going to try to be a little bit more creative today so we can really showcase all the colors. So next, let's talk about the pocket A border. Remember, pocket A is on the outside here, and this is going to be the border right here. So it's going to be a beautiful little contrast. So then we have 3 cuts of clear vinyl. Pocket D is going to be this small clear zip pocket here, which is great for like pens and your stiletto and things like that. Pocket E is going to be the shorter clear pocket over here. Again, this is like a little slip, so you can hold multiple things layered up on each other. And then pocket F is going to be the larger clear slip pocket over here behind the quilted front slip pocket. And then we have pocket C, which is our mesh cut, which is going to go right here. It's actually divided into 2 sections. So you're going to have 2 little pockets here of mesh. All right, next let's look at the center facing and the elastic. That's going to go on the inside right down the center. So you see this center facing right here is the center strip, and then you have the elastics here. This is great at holding little spools of thread, whatever you want. You can put all kinds of fun stuff there. For this pocket, you will need 7 cuts of the elastic. All right, next we have a couple cuts for the handle stabilizer and the handle. So as you can imagine, this right here is the handle. It's on the top of the bag. And then if you can see underneath here, that's the stabilizer. So there's gonna be a piece that's attached to the main panel and then the handle that goes up top. As you can see, I decided to have the webbing show, and on the back side, I have this. I'm not gonna do that today. I don't want the webbing to show. However, the pattern suggests that you insert this webbing into like a tube of this material and then pull it through. That was very difficult with the material I'm using, so I'm going to show you how to do it another way. We're pretty much just sew it on to the material. But in order to accomplish this look and the size to be the right size, you're going to want to cut down the width. So my two pink pieces here, the width here for these are both a 1/2 inch leaner, a 1/2 inch less wide than what the pattern suggests. So the pattern has these 1/2 inch wider, but since I'm constructing them differently, they're a 1/2 inch not as wide. And then finally we have all of our bindings and little odds and ends. So we have a binding here that I'm going to use. I'm going to use the nylon for the binding. I tried to use the nylon the way the pattern suggests for the binding, and it did not work out for me. It was just too thick. I cannot double fold this around the edge. So I cut my nylon binding for the exterior binding that goes on the end. These are 2 strips. Each strip is 1 inch wide by 36 inches long. And I'm going to attach them together. And I am going to just fold this in half like this and wrap it around the edge of my finished product and stitch it on. I'm going to be using double-sided tape to help it all hold in place. That's what I did for this. Yes, you do have raw edges of your nylon. I don't have any problem with fraying. So if it's something you want to try, go ahead and do that. If you want to use quilt cotton so that you can have a nice stretch around the corners, go ahead and do that. Totally up to you. But I did find that just a 1 inch strip of this bonded nylon wrapping around the edge worked perfectly. Next we have our zipper tab, and you can see the zipper tab's just in the inside over here because it is an extended zipper. And then we have all of our bindings. The bindings are going to be for the inside pocket, so you can see all these bits here where I have the black and white. That's the binding. Instead today I'm going to use this hot pink to really show that off. So the first thing the pattern suggests you do is build your bias binding, and it's going to show you can actually cut out a square piece of your quilt cotton, cut it at a diagonal, and then cut strips, and you'll have nice stretchy binding. I'm not doing that today because I'm not using quilt cotton, but instead I have my 2 strips of nylon, and I'm just going to lay them right sides together, lining up 2 corners and having them at a 90-degree angle. And then I'm going to grab my ruler and a marking tool, and I'm just going to draw a diagonal line from the top left corner on the wrong side of my top piece of binding all the way down to the bottom right where it connects with the bottom piece of the binding. And then I'll just grab a clip to hold it in place, and I'm just going to sew right along that marked line, sewing these together so that they're perpendicular. Once you have these sewn together, you can cut off the little triangle on the end and just leaving about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And I like to just top stitch on each side of that diagonal line. So now your strip should be nice and straight, right? Even though we sewed it on perpendicular. I like to top stitch on both sides of this just because my material doesn't really want to stay flat on its own. If you'd like, you could glue it down or tape it down instead. But I find just top stitching on both sides to hold the seam open really helps to keep it flat as we bind it onto the bag. Alright, so that's all the prep I have to do for my binding. I'm just going to set this to the side. So the next section just talks about preparing your zippers. Remember, you're going to have one zipper that's at least 40 inches long, and these are number 5 zippers. And this is going to have one zipper pull on it. And then you're going to have 4 zippers, each that are 15 inches long at least. And 3 of those zippers are going to have one zipper pull on just like this, and then one zipper will have 2 zipper pulls, and they are both zipping in the same direction. They are not zipping in opposite directions like we do with some bags. They both go in the same direction. So just prepare those. So since the nylon doesn't really hold a fold very well, you can try to pre-fold this like the pattern suggests. You can't really press it though. We're not going to worry about pre-folding it right now. We will fold it and tape it down right before we install it. But you do want to mark the lines the pattern does mention. So there are going to be multiple lines that the pattern wants you to mark. It wants you to mark them on the right side of your material. You can use a chalk marker if you'd like and just do horizontal lines. You probably can't see this, but I did instead decide to use my silver ink pen, and I just marked little tick marks on the edge of the material. So let me show you what the end goal is here. We're going to take our elastic and we're going to stitch it down along the sides where those marks are. And then in the end, we're going to fold the material back so that those raw edges come to meet one another on the back side here, and your end result will be something like this. So you have lots of room here to make marks on the long raw edges. without it being seen in the end. So that's what I decided to do. I just measured down where the pattern suggests, all little tick marks, and I'll just stitch on my elastic like that. So to get started, make sure you know where your top and bottom are. And here's my top over here. Here are my first set of tick marks. I'm going to take my elastic and I'm going to lay it so that the top of the elastic meets up with those tick marks. And then I'm just going to use clips to clip both sides in place. And then I'll take my next elastic and find my next set of tick marks. And again, just line up the top edge of the elastic with those tick marks. And then use my clips to clip along the sides. And just so you know, your elastic is wider than the width of this casing, so it should bubble up in the center. I don't know if you can see from the side. It's hard to see, but it does bubble up. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to baste along the long sides at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance to hold the elastic in place. Go slow while you do this because you don't want this to get moved around by the presser foot. I find that using a stiletto here really helps to keep everything exactly where I need it. And there we go, those are stitched on, and you can see in the end what you'll end up doing is folding both of these back just like this and stitching this on in the center. Again, I'm going to be using double-sided tape for this, but double-sided tape, it's going to be a while before we do that, so I will worry about it once we get closer to that step. So I'm going to put this to the side for now. Okay, so we're going to work on the handle and handle stabilizer pieces now. This is the handle, this is the handle stabilizer. I'm going to show you how I do this. So grab your handle fabric piece and your webbing. And first, just focusing on the handle part, you can grab a marking pen and just mark the midpoint going lengthwise along the back side here. And if you're using the nylon for this piece, you're going to want to use double-sided tape here. If you're using water-resistant canvas, you can just use your fingers. But after you mark that midpoint line, you're going to fold back the long raw edges, wrong sides together, to meet that midpoint mark. And I find with water-resistant canvas, you can really just press it down with your fingers. It almost has like a paper-like quality to it, where it will hold the fold pretty well. It's not going to be super flat, but we'll worry about that in just a moment. For now, we just need to get that crease in there. We're going to get that fold on our material. So do this for both long edges, folding them back. And this is not the same as what the pattern suggests. So I'm going rogue here. I'm not doing what the pattern suggests, because for me, this is just a lot easier. So if you'd like to add some clips, you can, just to hold the folds in place. All right, once you have that done, keeping the raw edge side up, what we're going to want to do is take our strapping here and we're going to lay it right over the center of our fabric. And you're going to have a little bit of overhang on both sides. That's fine. So I find using some double-sided tape is helpful for that, and I like to use the 1/4 inch size. This is a bigger piece. And for reference, the webbing is 1 inch shorter than the material, so you should have about 1/2 of an inch overhang on each side. If you want to mark that with a marking tool, go ahead and do that. Now we can just tape our webbing so that it covers the center of the back of our handle. And you should have a little peak of overhang of your material on both long edges. And as you go down, just wrap the clips around both the material and the webbing. All right, once you have that set in place, now we're just going to top stitch along all 4 edges at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to be doing that at 1/8 of an inch from the black webbing cut, not the exterior cut. Okay, and at this point you might look at this handle, because this is going to be the top of it, and say, well, I don't really love how that looks. I'm going to attach mine like this. So you're not even going to see it. The handle is a pretty tight handle, so in the end you'll feel the webbing underneath it, but you won't see it. So that's what I like about this. It's nice and easy, and you don't really have to worry about how it looks. However, if you have a really fun webbing and material you want to use together, then show it off like this. I mean, it's a beautiful strap. So repeat that exact same process for the handle stabilizer cuts. So once you have both the handle and the stabilizer pieces attached in whatever method you prefer, you can set those to the side. So now we're going to start building pockets, which is pretty much just what the majority of this pattern is just building a lot of pockets and then attaching them all on to the main piece in the end. So grab your pocket A, grab your pocket A border, and if you have a bag tag you want to put on that fun little border, go ahead and grab that as well. And let's start with the bag tag first. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to find the midpoint along the top or bottom edge lengthwise, and I'm just going to cut that to get my midpoint mark. Pretty much what I want to do is I just want to center my bag tag on this border piece here. So I'm going to grab some double-sided tape. And I'm just going to add that to the back of my tag. And I went ahead and marked the line where the center of this contrasting piece is. And I'm just gonna center my bag tag over that. You can get your ruler and make it more precise. I'm just eyeballing it. But once I have that centered, I'm going to now top stitch around all 4 edges of my bag tag at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So once you have your tag installed, measure 3 inches down from the top edge of your pocket A and mark a horizontal line. Now this is going to be the panel that's seen in the end, so if you have a preference, make sure you think about that now. And then grab the pocket A border, and you're gonna lay that right side down. Think about your orientation if you have orientation fabric or the bag tag. Lay it right side down so that the long edge is just lined up with that chalk mark. You can add clips over on the sides to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And keeping this edge of our border lined up with that chalk mark, we're going to sew along the border piece at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. Once that's sewn on, flip that border piece right side up and just press along that seam with your fingers. Depending on your material, you can iron it if you need to. And I'm going to use some clips to try to clip this to the top edge. It should line up with the very top edge of your material. If it is just a scotch beneath it, because again, with measuring everything exactly, sometimes things just go off a little bit. It's okay if it's just a little bit below. I mean, mine's probably like a 1/16 of an inch below the top edge of pocket A, and that's okay. All right, now I'm going to top stitch along all 4 edges of this border piece at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. This is going to hold down the sides and the top as well. Once you have that border in place, grab one of your 15-inch long zippers that has a single zipper pull, and when the zipper closes, it should be going towards the left. And we're going to lay the zipper right side down along the top edge of our pocket A, and the zipper should extend a good amount beyond the sides. And let's just clip this in place. And now let's sew along this clipped edge at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. Once you have the zipper sewn on, you're going to flip this so that the seam goes behind that border. So flip this down. So if you look at the back, the zipper tape is going to remain flat and the seam is going to go behind the border. Now this can take some effort and you might have to hold it down at the sewing machine. This is also where things can start to get kind of bulky. So if you have a thinner needle, think about that now, because what we want to do now is hold this zipper and seam down behind the top, and we're going to top stitch along just underneath the zipper on the top border piece at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, so once you have this zipper attached to pocket A, go ahead and grab pocket B, and we're not going to do a border on this one, but we're going to attach the zipper in the same way. So just repeat that with another 15-inch long zipper, sewing it on right side down, and then flipping the seam behind the zipper and top stitching it in place. So once you have both of the zippers attached to pockets A and B, now we're going to add the binding to the top edge of those zippers. Now I'm going to do this a little bit different than what the pattern suggests, just because it's a little bit easier for me, especially if you're using the nylon. This is going to be an easier method. The water-resistant canvas, you might be able to get away with it the way the pattern does it, but just as an alternative, I'm going to show you. So the first thing I'm going to do is on the wrong side of one of my binding pieces for pockets A and B, I'm going to mark a midpoint line going right along the center, and then I'm going to grab some double-sided tape, and I'm going to add some double-sided tape just about a 1/4 inch below that midpoint line. Now, double-sided tape works much better with nylon than it does with water-resistant canvas, so it might not stick as much as I want it to, but that's okay. It doesn't have to stick forever, just for a minute. So I'm going to remove the paper from my tape, and then I'm going to fold a long raw edge of my water-resistant canvas up to meet that midpoint line, and the tape should hold it in place temporarily for me. All right, once I have that done, then I'm going to start with my pocket A. I'm going to lay my pocket A right side up. I'm going to take my little binding piece here that has the taped edge down, and on the untaped long edge, I'm going to lay this right side down on the right side of my zipper, lining up the sides with the sides of pocket A. And I'm going to clip this to the raw edge of my zipper tape. So now I'm going to sew along this top clipped edge at about a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to backstitch at the beginning and the end. All right, once that's stitched on, now we're going to flip the binding up and over and around the top of that zipper tape. And when we look over, again, we have the tape that's holding down this folded edge here, so we don't have any raw edge over here to worry about. But as we fold this over, I can see the bobbin thread on the back of my zipper, and I just want to make sure I'm covering that. That's really my only concern, is that the folded edge of my binding comes down below that bobbin thread. So I'm just going to carefully wrap this around. I'm not trying to get it really tight around the raw edge of the zipper tape or anything like that. I just want to cover the bobbin thread. All right, once you have the binding wrapped around and covering the bobbin thread on the back here, flip it back to the right side, and now we're going to top stitch so that it's just about 1/8 of an inch from the seam right here along the binding piece. So, and the goal is as we are top stitching this from the front side, we're going to catch the back, and that's why we wanted to make sure we caught that bobbin thread when we folded this over. So once you have that top stitched on, just check the back and make sure you caught it. That looks good. All right, so now this is pocket A done. You're gonna repeat that exactly for pocket B, building the binding and attaching it the exact same way. All right, now both of your pockets are all prepped. If you need to, go ahead and trim the height of these. So my binding is a little bit taller than it would be otherwise. So you're gonna measure down. The measurements are on the pattern, but you're gonna measure down from the top, from the binding. And if you need to trim it down, trim off the bottom edge here of either of these panels or both of them. So once these pockets are sewn and trimmed down, you can set them to the side. So now let's work on the mesh pocket. So grab your mesh and grab one of your mesh bindings. And on the back side of the mesh binding, let's draw a horizontal line that's going down the middle. And I'm going to use 2 pieces of double-sided tape this time. Once again, they're going to be about 1/4 of an inch away from that midpoint line. So I'll add double-sided tape below and above that marked line. And then you can remove the paper from your tape and then fold the long raw edge, wrong sides together, up to meet that midpoint line. And this time we're going to do it for both sides. Now once you have those taped or pressed, if you're using cold cotton, keep it so that it is raw edge backside up, and then take your mesh and lay your mesh over the back of it, lining up the top edge of your mesh pocket with the middle seam there, and then just wrap the binding around it. You can see it doesn't want to stay in place. So I'm just going to kind of tuck in the mesh and wrap the binding around and clip in place. All right, once you have that wrapped, let's top stitch along the bottom folded edge of this binding at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So now grab your zipper tape that has the 2 zipper pulls on it, and they should both close to the left when they're closing, and then grab your mesh pocket with the binding. And what we're going to do is we're pretty much just going to lay this over the zipper tape and top stitch it in place. So on the back of my binding, I have a piece of double-sided tape here, and I put it just above the top stitching I just did. I'm going to remove that paper, and then I'm just going to line this up so that it is over the right side of my zipper tape and close, but not too close to the coils. Just kind of eyeball it. There we go, just like that. Stick it in place. So now I'm going to top stitch on the top edge of my binding this time at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and that's going to hold this onto the zipper tape. So now we're going to attach binding to the top of our zipper just like we did for the zippers for pockets A and B. So once again, I have a midpoint mark marked on the back of my binding cut, and then I have a piece of double-sided tape just on one side. And I'm going to remove the paper, and then I'm going to fold the long edge wrong side back to meet that midpoint line, and then just tape it in place. And then once I have that prepped, I'm going to take my binding and lay it right side down on the right side of the zipper, lining it up with the sides of my other binding, and I'm just going to clip this in place. And this is being attached to the unsewn side of the zipper. And then we're going to sew this down at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. And now flip the binding up. You can finger press it right by the zipper to get it flat, and then fold it over and wrap it around so that it covers the bobbin thread. So that's all. You don't have to wrap it super tight. Don't try to cover the back of the zipper teeth or anything like that. We're just covering the bobbin thread. And that will ensure that when we top stitch this, we catch the back. If you want to use double-sided tape here as well, you can, but I find with this material it's not necessary. All right, once you have that folded over, go back to the right side, and now let's just top stitch right above that seam we just made at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance along the binding. All right, I forgot to turn the camera on for that. I apologize, but it's just like we did before. And then let's just check the back and make sure we caught the back edge. Looks good. All right, Okay, now before you attach the bottom binding, you want to measure from the top edge of your binding to the bottom of the mesh, and the pattern will tell you exactly how high that should be. If it's taller than that, you need to cut off some of the bottom mesh before adding the binding on. All right, once you have this trimmed down to size, grab your remaining mesh binding piece, and just like we attached it to the top of the mesh, we're going to attach it to the bottom. So mark a midpoint line going along the center on the back, and then grab some double-sided tape and just add some double-sided tape just to one side of that midpoint line, about 1/4 inch away. And then remove the paper and fold the long raw edge up to meet that midpoint line and use the tape to keep it there. And then grab your double-sided tape and add it to the other side as well. I forgot that for a moment. You want to tape both sides down and then fold the other long edge up as well to meet the middle line. If you want to leave just a tiny gap between the two long edges, that does help a bit when you fold it. If they're too close to each other, if they're touching each other, or even like overlapping each other, it's going to be hard to fold it properly along the center. So if there's just a little gap, that makes it easier. There we go. And then we're going to take our mesh pocket and we're going to lay it over the back side of that binding. And we're just going to fold our binding up and around the bottom edge of the mesh. And try to make sure the mesh pocket gets all the way into the center of your binding. And then just clip in place. Once you have that clipped in place, just top stitch along the top edge of the fold at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, your mesh pocket is now prepped. You can set it to the side. Now we're pretty much just going to repeat what we just did with the mesh pocket, but with Pocket D vinyl pocket. So grab your Pocket D clear vinyl and then grab one of your binding pieces for it. All right, and just like we've done before, mark a midpoint line and use tape if you'd like to, or you can use an iron here and just fold these long raw edges back to meet the middle. And you're going to do it on both sides. And then once you have those both folded back, take your clear vinyl, lay it over the back side of your binding, and then fold the binding around to wrap in place. If you want to use tape here, you can, but you should be okay with just using some clips. And now let's top stitch along the bottom edge of your folded binding at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now grab your remaining 15-inch zipper with the single zipper pull and your little clear pocket here. And then on the back side of our clear pocket, I'm going to add a little piece of, again, 1/8 of an inch wide double-sided tape just above the bobbin thread from my top stitching. And then remove the paper from that. And then flip this over and line this up so that it's just a bit below the zipper teeth. I don't have an exact measurement. I just know how I want it to look. That looks good. So now I'm going to go top stitch along the top edge of my folded binding at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and that's going to attach this to the zipper. What are you doing, girl? So once you have this sewn onto your zipper, grab another piece of your binding and we're going to attach this just like we do previously with the binding. So I marked a midpoint line and I put one piece of double-sided tape on just below that midpoint line. Remove the paper and then fold the raw edge wrong sides together to meet the middle. And then once that's taped in place, take your binding and lay it right side down on the right side of your zipper tape, lining it up with the short edges of your clear pocket, and then just clip it along the raw edge of your zipper tape. And now let's sew along this clipped edge at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Once you have that sewn on, just finger press right along that seam to get it nice and flat. You can use a seam roller here, or again, depending on your material, you can use an iron if you'd like. And then let's flip this over and wrap the folded edge of the binding over to the back side so that it's covering the bobbin thread. And that's it, just goes right below the bobbin thread. All right, once you have that clipped in place, flip this back over to the right side and let's just top stitch right along the top of that seam at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, once you have the top binding on, before you attach the bottom binding on the clear panel, go ahead and measure. The pattern tells you how high this should be. If you need to trim off anything, trim off the clear bit on the bottom here. Once you have this trimmed down to size, I know it is a very tiny pocket, it's supposed to be, grab another binding piece and on the back side, midpoint line, and then double-sided tape on the top and bottom if you're using double-sided tape. And then fold the long raw edge wrong sides together to meet that midpoint mark on both long ends. All right, once you have these folded back, just take the bottom edge of your clear vinyl and center it on the back side of the binding. So it's going right along that center midpoint, and then just wrap the binding up and around the clear vinyl. All right, once you have that clipped onto the bottom, let's just top stitch along the top folded edge of the binding at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, this little pocket's done. You can set it to the side. So now grab your 2 remaining clear vinyl pockets and then your 2 quilted pockets and your 4 binding pieces. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna add binding to the top edge of all 4 of these pockets. So I'll set you up and run you through one of them, and then you can just repeat that for the rest of them. So just like we have been doing, on the wrong side of one of your binding pieces, mark the midpoint line going along the center and add 2 pieces of double-sided tape, one on the top, one on the bottom of that midpoint line, and then fold the long raw edges in wrong sides together to meet that midpoint. And then grab any of your pockets. Let's just do a quilted pocket, but it can be either of the 2 clear pockets or the remaining 2 quilted pockets, and lay the top edge over the back of the binding and wrap the binding around the top of the pocket. And we're only binding tops of pockets right now, not the bottom. So I just use clips here, but again, if you want to use more double-sided tape, you can. And then we're going to top stitch along the lower edge of the binding at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And there you go, the top is bound. The quilted ones already have a lining on it, so just repeat that for the other quilted pocket and also the 2 clear pockets. So this is what it should look like when you have all 4 of your final pockets bounded. Now all of your pockets are ready to go, and all we have to do is sew them onto the main body and then add the zipper and add the binding, and we're done. All right, now we're gonna start just sewing on the pockets. I'm gonna start with the inside, so like the lining side. So I didn't make any of the marks the pattern suggests on the exterior yet, just because they will come off. All my marking tools will dissolve or wipe off before I can use them. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm just going to work on the lining side first. You cannot see any of my marks because of the material I'm using. I actually used air erasing marker on one side. I used chalk pens on the other side. It's very difficult with this striped fabric to see marks. So make sure you're using something like chalk, air erasing marker, something like that. Vinyl marker, you can see a little bit better, but it won't come off the nylon. So just think about that. So the first pocket we're going to work on is the mesh pocket, and we're going to align this so that the bottom edge of the binding is right above the second to bottom horizontal line down here. The pattern does tell you what the measurements are for these, so you can refer to that. But we're going to line this bottom edge up with that, and then we're going to line the top edge up with the other mark that the pattern suggests. We're going to line up the bottom edge with that mark there. I like to use clips on the side. If you'd like, you can also use double-sided tape here and tape it down. I think I actually might do that. It's going to be easier to keep this in place if I tape it down. I'm just going to add a little bit of double-sided tape right along my bobbin thread from my top stitching. And then I'm going to line up this bottom edge with the tape on it right above the line the pattern tells us to do this at. And then I'm just going to flip down the top bit, and I'm going to add some double-sided tape to the very top of the top binding. And then I'm going to flip this up, and I'm going to line this up just below the line that the pattern tells us to. Okay, once you have these taped in place, now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we're going to top stitch along the bottom and top edges of our binding at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then also baste or top stitch along the sides here. Your pocket should overhang the edge of the main panel, but we're going to top stitch away from the main panel at 1/8 inch seam allowance, just holding this whole pocket in place. So once you have this pocket basted and top stitched in place, move your zippers so that one is on the left and one is on the right, and then draw a midpoint line going straight down the middle, and I just use a chalk marker for that. And now we're going to top stitch right over that midpoint line, and we're going to start at the bottom, go all the way up to the top, and then pivot, go right back down, so you have like a double stitch to separate these 2 pockets from one another. All right, once you have that pocket separated, now what I like to do is just flip this over and then trim down the overhang of the pocket on the sides. I just find it's easiest to like really see what needs to be trimmed down if you look at the back side, or I guess this will be the front, kind of. Now we're going to attach pocket E, which is one of your clear pockets. It's the smaller clear pocket. And you can line it up with the bottommost horizontal line if you'd like, but it should also just line up naturally with the bottom edge of the main panel. I like to line it up and then use clips to clip around the bottom and the sides. Now let's go to the sewing machine and just baste along the sides and the bottom of our clear pocket at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once you have that clear pocket on, grab pocket G, which is the smaller of the quilted pockets, and you're going to layer that over the bottom of the clear vinyl. So you have like a double pocket here. So just line that up with the sides and the bottom. And now also go baste this bottom pocket on now at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, once you have that stitched in place, now what you're going to want to do is draw divider lines. And so the pattern gives you measurements for this. If you have your own idea of what you want to be putting here, you can change up these stitches. I'm going to stick with the pattern for this side. And so I have all of my marks made with chalk marking tools, and it goes above the quilted and also above the clear vinyl pocket. So both of these two slip pockets on the bottom here, it's going to go up both of them. And what we're going to do is just on each one of these lines, we're going to start at the bottom, we're going to top stitch up, and then back down. So it's a double stitch on each one of these dividing lines, and that will be nice and secure so that we can put our pens and all kinds of little things in there. Alrighty, once you have that done, you can grab a damp rag and wipe off all your chalk marks, but now you have your little pockets all attached here. So now let's attach the pockets to the other side. Now you're going to just rotate this around, and we're going to grab pocket D, which is our clear zip pocket, and just like I did with the mesh pocket, I'm going to add some double-sided tape on the back of the bottom and top bindings. It just makes sewing it down so much easier. So I'm going to start with the bottom one. And remember, the pattern gives you the placement, so how many inches from this edge here this bottom one needs to go. So just line that up. And once you have the bottom edge taped down, you can remove the paper from the top. And then just line that up and flatten it out. There we go. And now we're going to go and we're going to top stitch along the bottom edge, the sides, and the top edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I know this doesn't look straight because of my lines. So my lining print is making this look like it's not straight at all. It actually is straight. Once you have that sewn on, just flip this over and trim off any excess you have on the sides. Now grab pocket F and you're going to lay that right side up on the bottom edge here. So you can line it up with the markings, or you can just line it up with the sides and the bottom, which is what I'm going to do, and clip in place. And now let's stitch this down along the sides and the bottom at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once you have that clear pocket stitched down, grab your quilted pocket H. I'm going to also install a bag tag here, so I'm just going to kind of eyeball this, and I am going to just top stitch this in the center. Now for this, we're going to stitch down those skinny pockets just like we did on the other side. I'm just going to be mindful of mine and make sure I don't stitch over my bag tag. So once I have my bag tag taped in place, I'm just going to top stitch along all 4 edges at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now that I have my bag tag on there, we're just going to line this up right above that larger clear pocket, and we're going to clip it in place along the sides and the bottom. This is when you're going to start seeing a lot of layers get stacked up on one another. So if you need to change your needle size to a thicker needle, like a jeans needle or 80-12 or 90-14, go ahead and start thinking about that, because we still have more layers to add onto this, and we still have a zipper to add on to all these layers, and we have binding. So think about that. So now I'm just going to go baste this in place at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance along the sides and the bottom. So just like we did on the other side, we're going to just have some long vertical lines that cover the quilted pocket and the clear pocket. This is a good time where if you have certain tools you think you want to use, I think these are kind of big, but if you have certain tools you know you want to go in here, go ahead and just kind of lay them out and measure them out to see how you want that to go. And then once you have your design done, we're going to just once again top stitch from the bottom edge up over the top binding of the clear pocket and then back down. So we have a double stitch on each one of our marked lines. All right, once you have all the lining pockets installed and done, isn't that fun? Now we just have to attach the exterior pockets. So yeah, lots of layers, because we also still have the exterior pockets, and then we have the zipper, and then we have the binding. Think about that needle, guys. All right, now looking at the exterior side, go ahead and do your marks if you'd like. And what we're going to attach is the handle stabilizer. So remember, I just kind of top stitched my webbing onto here. I don't really want this webbing showing, so I'm just going to flip this over, and I'm going to line it up with my marks, and it should perfectly stretch from side to side. And let's just clip that in place. If you'd like to use double-sided tape here to hold it down, you can do that as well, whatever's easiest for you. And now we're going to take this to the sewing machine and just top stitch along all 4 edges of our little strap stabilizer piece here at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, once you have the stabilizer stitched in place, then grab your strap handle, and I'm once again going to have the webbing go down like this. So in the end, you won't really see it, but you'll feel it. So on your strap, you're going to mark 4 inches from one short edge and draw a line on the right side of the strap. And then you're going to mark 3 1/4 inch and draw another vertical line. You're going to do this for both sides of the strap. So using the measurements of the strap, you're going to make those 4 vertical lines. Again, with some sort of air erasing marker or chalk marker. And then just starting on the left side, we're going to lay our strap down on top of our stabilizer piece and clip in place. And I'm just going to work on one side at a time because, as you can see, my strap is longer. So when we do this side, we're going to pop it up like that. So just starting over here on the left side, I'm going to stitch a square using my marked lines in my previous top stitching marks, and then I'm also going to stitch an X inside of that square to really hold this strap in place. Alright, once you have one of these top stitched in place, now what you're going to do is take the other end of your handle and pull it up so that the raw edges match up with the raw edges on the side. And once again, you're just layering it right over the stabilizer piece. Flatten this out just like that. So the other handle part over here should kind of bulge up. And just repeat that. Do another square of top stitching using the previous top stitching marks and your marked lines, and then do an X inside of that little box. Alright, now we have the handle installed. That's good to go. Okay, so now make sure you rotate this so your pockets see the mesh pocket and then the smaller clear vinyl pocket and golden pocket. They're on the bottom. They're right here because we're going to put our big pocket A on the right side over that. So line up your pocket. So you can use the marks the pattern suggests at the top here. I think I am going to add some double-sided tape to hold this in place as well. So on the top of my binding for pocket A, I'm going to add some double-sided tape because we are going to be stitching this down and I don't want it to move around on me. So I'm just going to flip this over, line up the bottom corners of my pocket with my main panel and clip in place so that my pocket A is right side up on the right side of my exterior. Alright, once I've got the sides and the bottom clipped in place, I'm going to just flip up the top here and remove the paper from my double-sided tape. And then just tape down that top using the marked lines. There we go. Now flip this over and make sure none of your zipper pulls are too close to the edge if they're in the middle. And now let's take this to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch along the top edge of our binding for this pocket, and then we're also going to baste along the sides and the bottom, all at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, got one main pocket done. You can really start to see how it's all coming together now. Isn't that pretty? It looks so good. So now we're going to repeat that with the other side. Now grab pocket B, and we're going to do the exact same thing. So if you want, you can add some double-sided tape to the top. I just find it's helpful because sometimes stuff likes to shift around, and by taping the top edge, we know that it's going to stay straight. But I first clip the bottom and sides and get that lined up, and then I do the top last. Alright, once I have the sides and the bottom clipped in place, I'm going to just remove the paper from my double-sided tape and then just tape this down. So now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to baste along the sides and the bottom at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm going to top stitch along the top of my binding right here at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm also going to be paying attention to this zipper right here on the back. You don't want to accidentally sew over the zipper pull, so make sure you're keeping it out of the way. So once you have those pockets stitched in place, it's easier if you flip it over to the lining side and just carefully trim down any zipper tape you have that's overhanging anywhere. It should be getting really cool looking. We just have a couple more things to add. Okay, now we're going to round the corners, and to do that I'm going to use my rounded corner template here. It's a 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch corner template. I'm going to be using the 3 inch corner. So all I have to do is just line that up with one side and one bottom angle. I'm going to grab my silver ink pen because that's the easiest to see, and I'm just going to trace that rounded edge. You could grab anything that's round. Obviously I have these, so I'm going to use them. So I'm going to round off all 4 corners of this, and then once I have those traced, I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to cut right along that line, and I'm cutting through all the layers, so it can be kind of thick. Make sure you have some good scissors for this and go slow. And then once you have all 4 corners rounded, take this back to the machine and just baste stitch over each of these corners to hold all the layers in place. It's gonna make it easier to attach the zipper later if you do that. This is looking so cute. I love all the hot pink and the stripes and the bees. This is so cute. All right, now it's time to attach the zipper. Don't worry, we haven't forgot about this piece here that goes on after the zipper. So position this so that it's lining side up and it's laying like this, and then your pocket with the border over here is on the right side. And pay attention to all your zippers. I like to move all zipper pulls into the center so I don't have to worry about hitting them with my needle. All right, so you should have a midpoint mark on the top and the bottom on the lining side, so the midpoints of this entire case. Grab your long 40-inch zipper, and when the zipper closes, it should be going towards the left. So see, it closes towards the left. Lay your zipper right side up, and the end of your zipper tape, again, when it's closed, should match up with that midpoint mark right at the top. Now, lining side up, zipper tape right side up, just like this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go around clipping this zipper into place. If you wanna use tape here, you can use tape. I wouldn't recommend it though, because I am gonna be using tape later for the binding. So we're just gonna work on one side over here. And just work your way all the way around. And on the curves, just kind of lift it up. The zipper doesn't need to lay flat, just lift it up and let it curve around. The goal here is to make sure the raw edge of the zipper is lining up with the raw edge of our unit here. All right, once you get towards the bottom here, you should have a mark over here that is 9.5 inches away from the right side. So I just have it right on the seam there. That's where you're going to stop with your zipper tape. So keep on clipping your zipper tape along the edge, but when we're sewing, we're not going to sew past that 9.5 inch mark. So now make sure you're using your zipper foot of the sewing machine. We're going to sew this zipper in place only on the right side over here at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure you back stitch at the beginning and the end. And make sure, again, your 9.5 inch mark on the side, you make sure you stop there and back stitch. Go carefully around the corners. If you need to open up your zipper tape, you might find that easier. All right, slow and steady as you go around those corners. But it's not that bad. It's not that bad. So to prepare the other side, the pattern suggests closing the case and then lining up the edge of your zipper tape with the other edge with the case closed and adding clips. So that's what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna close this and add the clips. Don't worry so much about the raw edge at the very top here, not the end that overhangs a lot, but the end that like is supposed to meet up with the midpoint. Don't worry so much about that because you're not going to really be able to clip that in place with this method just yet. We'll do that in a moment. So right now what I'm really focused on are the corners. I'm matching up the corners of the side I've already sewn with the corners of the unsewn side, and then adding clips to my zipper tape. And when you do this, you see you have your exterior right side out and your zipper is right side up as well, because we're not turning anything inside out or anything like that. There's no birthing. We're just gonna bind this edge when we're done. Okay, that's pretty good. So now once I have that done, what I'm gonna do is unzip my zipper. So I'll let my zipper unzip and go all the way off the excess here. Make sure you don't lose it. And then on the other side where it's still a little zipped, I'm just gonna open it up like that. So now as I have it open, now I can attach the top of my zipper tape along the top here. And then I'm gonna check the bottom here, and I'm gonna find that 9.5 mark from the other end. And I'm just gonna make sure I put a clip there so I know to stop there. There we go. And now my zipper is intact, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing as I did on the other side. I'm going to sew the zipper in place at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to make sure I don't sew in between the space over here. We need a space on the very tail of our zipper so we can easily get it in and out. So that's at that 9.5 inch mark, back stitching at the beginning and the end. Alrighty, zipper is attached. Now before I move on, let's just do a little bit of prep. I'm going to grab my lighter and some scissors. And one thing you might notice is that your zipper tape, it likes to roll up. Not the teeth, but the actual tape that's sewn on. It rolls up at these corners, which makes binding a challenge. So I'm gonna cut little slits, just like 2 or 3, right into my zipper tape. And when you do that, your zipper tape immediately flattens out. So that's gonna make attaching the binding easier. So I'm just gonna go around, just little tiny slits, let them flatten out. And if you have any edges that are overhanging anywhere you want to trim down, go ahead and trim those down. And then I'm gonna grab a lighter. And what I'm gonna focus on right now are my zipper ends. So right here, where the zipper is, I'm just going to melt it down. So zipper tape is woven together with plastic thread. And so it makes it really durable. However, it also makes it easily unravelable. It unravels really easy. So that's why we burn it, so we melt it, because the threads are plastic fibers, they melt in and seal themselves so that we don't have to worry about them unraveling. But you can see if you don't deal with it, you get these little fuzzies and they will unravel over time, and that could be a problem. So not only do I want to do these zipper ends, I also want to kind of just boop the little slits I made on my zipper tape on the corners. So I'm just going to kind of run that over the corners, because those little cuts I made into the tape could also potentially unravel. All right, so now the zipper is installed. Let's just set this to the side for a moment. And then grab your center facing and let's flip this over so we're looking at the back side of it. So on the back side, mark a midpoint going down the long edge, and then grab some double-sided tape, and let's add some double-sided tape along both sides of that midpoint line. Try to keep your material nice and flat. And then let's remove the paper of one side and fold your main panel back, wrong sides together, so the long raw edges meet up with that midpoint line. And you're also wrapping back all those little cuts of your elastic. There we go. And then repeat this with the other side. And what you're going to want to do is open this up, move the zipper out of the way, and with the raw edge side down, you're going to cover, so the beginning zipper ends over here where they meet and they're just pushed together. You're going to cover that entire edge with this facing, so it's going to go past the zipper teeth, over the zipper teeth, all the way to the edge. And then on the other side where the tail is long, it's going to tuck in between the zipper. So we're not sewing over the zipper on this side. So by sewing over the zipper on the left side over here, we are essentially closing it off. So now we don't have to worry about the zipper falling off because we have these open ends here. We're closing that off completely. You might find this easier if you use some double-sided tape on the back, because it is, especially if you're using the material like I am, that's a nylon material, it's a little loosey-goosey. I'm just gonna add some tape right over the back here, and I'm gonna carefully remove the paper and tape this in place. All right, once you have it taped in place, just take a peek on the other side, because the hardest part about this is making sure you don't accidentally stitch down your handle, which I have done. And we're going to stitch along the sides and the top and the bottom, all at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. But we want to make sure as we're stitching down the sides that we're not hitting a zipper pull on the other side and we're not stitching down the handle. So you do need to kind of stop a lot, move things out of the way, adjust, and slowly top stitch this center piece into place. I also like to just back stitch over my zipper teeth over here just to make sure those are nice and secure. All right, so once you have that stitched in place, flip this over. Make sure you didn't sew down the handle. That looks good. Didn't sew anywhere else I'm not supposed to. And this is all nice and tucked in. Zipper can still work. All right, so once our zipper is attached, now let's make our zipper tab. So take your zipper tab cut and on the back, mark a midpoint line going along the center. And then we can grab some double-sided tape and add a little bit of tape above and below that midpoint line. Again, if you're using another type of material that allows you to just iron this instead, that's going to be a lot easier. But with this nylon, the tape is the easiest option. So once I have the tape added, I'll remove the paper and then just fold those edges, wrong sides together to meet the midpoint line. Do this for both sides. And then on the back side that have those raw edges, you're going to make another midpoint line going from long end to long end, and then once again add a little bit of double-sided tape above and below that midpoint line, and then fold these short edges up to meet that midpoint line. Use the tape to help hold it in place. There we go. And do this for both sides. All right, so now you should have a nice small little square that has no raw edges along the outside. Okay, now before we put the zipper tab on, lay your zipper down like this so it's going over the center here. Find the second elastic loop, so there's the first one, here's the second one, and then measure 5/8 of an inch beyond that second loop and mark on your zipper tape. We don't want the zipper tape to be too long because it will take up a lot of space. So you're gonna just trim the zipper tape down so it's just 5/8 of an inch past the second elastic. And And then I'm gonna grab a lighter and melt down the edge of my zipper tape. And then I'll grab my zipper tab and I'm just going to fold my zipper tab over the end of my zipper tape so all raw edges are tucked in. And if you're using the nylon, this can be kind of bulky. We have a lot of folds here, so if you want to use another type of material, you definitely can. Just a scrap piece of vinyl would also be nice right here. But I'm just going to take this now and I'm going to top stitch along all 4 edges of my zipper tab at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, we're now on the last step, which is to attach the binding. Now I'm going to attach the binding differently than the pattern because of the material I'm using. This nylon is not really lightweight material. It's not like quilt cotton. If you do the double fold, it's going to be bulky. If you use the nylon for the zipper tab, then you know it's going to be really bulky and difficult. You can use the nylon though, and I think it actually works really well around these corners. So I'm gonna just use the 1-inch long strip of my nylon. The one thing I want to make sure of first though is that I'm going to tape it in place. So I'm going to use double-sided tape to tape the binding on the interior side first, and then I'll wrap it around and I'm going to sew it from the exterior side. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Hopefully I have enough tape. So I'm just going to add my 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape all the way around my zipper tape, and I'm putting it right on the edge of the zipper tape. Make sure you pull your zipper all the way down and out of the way. When you get down to the opening here, you are going to keep going on. So you're not going to be stitching over any zipper teeth. If you stitch over zipper teeth, you're not going to be able to use that zipper. So remember that. Zipper teeth stay out of the way. It's pointed in towards the center of the bag or project case. And the reason I'm using the tape on this side, so on the lining side, is because when I sew this, I'm going to be sewing it from the exterior side, and I need to make sure that my binding is not moving around. I don't want to have to worry about my binding shifting or getting out of place when I'm focused on sewing it on the right side. So now I have that installed. I'm going to start adding my binding over here on what I'm considering the back side of the project. And when I attach my binding, I'm going to lay my binding right side up, and I'm going to remove the paper. So with my binding right side up, I'm going to lay it wrong side down on top of my zipper tape so that it's covering the stitching that you can see down here. So the 1/4 inch stitching, it's going to cover that. So pretty much it's coming down about 3/8 of an inch from the edge. That's it. And that's all I'm going to do for now. I'm just going to go around taping this down, making sure I'm always covering stitching. And as you do this, you can grab some clips and wrap this around to the front and clip in place. We're going to double check everything before we sew it, but you can go ahead and wrap this around and clip it to the front and just gently take your time taping the binding down and then clipping it. And so I find with the corners, I will tape down the binding and it can be a little wrinkled. Tape it down, wrap it around and clip it, and then go back and untape where it's a little wrinkly, smooth it out, and then reclip it. It seems to work. It works, guys. I feel like it works pretty well. I actually feel like using this nylon works better than the water-resistant canvas, at least with the curves. And it just feels really nice. It's really pretty. All right, once your binding is back where it started, I'm just going to have it overhang by about 3/4 of an inch or an inch or so, and then cut off the binding. I'm fine with raw edges, so I just wrap this around where I started and clip in place. All right, so it's kind of like a rough draft right now. We've got the binding attached. So let's flip this over and see how it looks on the front. So on the front, what we want is any sort of basting stitches or anything like that. We want those covered up. So you might need to kind of rotate your binding a little bit, add a couple more clips. You are welcome to use your double-sided tape on the front as well if you'd like. I don't find it necessary, but if you're more comfortable with tape everywhere, then go for it. I'm just going to kind of take a peek. I'm looking at my corners. So when you're stitching on your binding, it's up to you which side you want to stitch it on. I'm going to tell you, I think it'll be easier to stitch the binding on with the zipper side up, so that way you make sure you don't go over these zipper coils, especially on the corners. but you run the risk of the bobbin thread looking a little wonky on the exterior of the bag. So if your bobbin thread matches your binding, then you're fine. Don't even worry about it. Just stitch it like that. I'm gonna stitch it with the exterior side up, which means I have to be very careful at these corners because these teeth, they like to poke out, and I don't want to sew over them because then we can't use them. So as I go around the corners, I'm going to be triple checking and making sure that the teeth are out of the way, and I'm going to top stitch the binding on at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, isn't that cute? I love these stripes. So now I'm just going to pull this out a bit so I get it started, and I'll just pull a zipper tab down a little bit to get it nice and closed. Zip it up. How stinking cute is that? So here's the second ones. And here's the first one. They're so cute, aren't they? Oh my gosh. So let's open them both up and see the difference on the insides. Oh, isn't that fun? So you can have lots of fun with this material. You have enough of the material to do this in any way you want. I love this. I love this so much. I'm so excited. We have another By Annie pattern on the channel. We're going to have a lot more, don't worry. Lots more coming. What do you guys think? All right, let's look at them side by side. Let's look at them side by side. Right? They're so cute. They're so cute. And you have 3 different materials, lots of each one. You have enough of each material to use it however you want. So you can see I really wanted to highlight the pink in this one. On this first version here, you couldn't see the pink at all because I used it for like lining and background of everything. So you couldn't see it. So this one I was like, I want everything to be seen. So this way we have our bees, we have our beautiful pink, we have our striped, which I love. The binding is the hardest part. The binding on some projects like this is always the hardest part. It takes practice, and using a strip of the nylon like I did is much easier for me than the double fold. If you prefer using quilt cotton cut on the bias, I suggest you go do that. It is quilt cotton cut on the bias to make your binding is just the cleanest finish because it allows the material to spread properly. However, 1 inch wide binding or even pre-cut, the 1 inch wide binding works really well too, and it looks so stinking cute. So I really hope you love making this as much as I do, and if you're part of the Bee Box, I hope that you love it. I want to mention again that they're offering a 3-month bundle, so if you want to gift this to someone, that is a great option. You can just gift them 3 months of Bee Boxes, and this is for the future Bee Boxes. Also, if you make this and you post it on social media, make sure you use the hashtag BagMakingBeeClub for a chance to win your next month's box completely free. There's a lot of fun stuff coming with the Bee Box. It just gets better and better. I cannot wait for you guys to see what we have coming in the next few months. I hope you're having a great day. Have a fantastic rest of your week. Get out there and make something. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's tutorial. I hope that you are inspired to go make something and have a lot of fun with these patterns. If you're not already subscribed, please make sure you click subscribe down below. Also make sure you hit that little bell, the little notification bell. That's gonna make sure you're notified every single time we have a new video or when we go live. For even more fun content from OklaRoots, make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram. We do daily stories over there, which include unboxing, talks about books, other little mini tutorials, lots and lots of discussion over all kinds of things going on. You can also find us on TikTok and also on Reels for even more fun, kind of more random content. And if you really want to dive in for some behind the scenes content, free gifts, access to shop items before anybody else, and influence on upcoming videos, make sure you go check out OklaRoots over on Patreon. We have a lot going on over there, and it's a fun place to hang out, and you are directly supporting the OklaRoots YouTube channel. These videos could not be possible without the help of my patrons. So thank you so much to everybody over there. Thank you again for watching today's tutorial. I hope you enjoy the videos. Go make something.